The crystalline spires of the Kelveri royal palace caught the light of 3 rising suns, casting prismatic shadows across Princess Zora's chambers. She stood motionless before the panoramic viewport, her iridescent skin reflecting the dawn in subtle patterns that betrayed her agitation to anyone familiar with Kelveri emotional displays. The Ancestral Council's decision is final. King Theron's voice resonated from behind her, each syllable weighted with imperial authority. You have until the alignment of the 7 moons to select a husband, or your claim to the throne is forfeit. Zora turned, her 6-fingered hands clenching at her sides. At 37 cycles, she was young for a Kelveri, but well past the traditional age of royal pairing. Father, the Empire faces greater challenges than my marital status, she countered, gesturing toward the holographic star chart hovering near her workstation. The Valkyrie expansion to our outer territories, the Mithran technological embargo. Precisely why the Empire needs stability in succession, Theron interrupted, his crest flaring with impatience. The royal bloodline has guided our people through 17 millennia of galactic supremacy. We will not fracture now because of your modern ideas. The king's attendants shifted uncomfortably. Princess Zora's progressive policies and scientific education had earned her admiration among younger Kelveri, but the elder houses viewed her as dangerously radical. I've arranged presentations from suitable candidates, Theron continued, sweeping his ceremonial robe as he moved toward the door. 3 from our oldest noble houses, 2 from the Valkyrie royal lineage, and an eminent Mithran scientist. Any would strengthen our position. After her father departed, Zora activated her private communication channel. Lyri, what's the status of the latest diplomatic arrivals? Her chief advisor's face materialized in the air. Most delegations have docked at the orbital station, Your Highness, including. Lyri hesitated. A human vessel. Zora's secondary eyelids flickered with interest. Earth sent representatives. They weren't scheduled for diplomatic recognition for another cycle. Their provisional ambassador requested acceleration of the process. Apparently, human merchants have encountered difficulties in the outer reach. Humans, Zora mused, accessing the Imperial database. The holographic display filled with images of the bipedal species from the spiral arm's edge. Physiologically unimpressive, no natural armaments, limited sensory capacity, short-lived. Yet their rapid technological advancement from planetary confinement to interstellar travel in less than 3 centuries was unprecedented. Schedule them for the afternoon reception, Zora decided. I'm curious. Captain James Chen adjusted the collar of his diplomatic uniform as the shuttle approached the Kelveri homeworld. Through the viewport, the planet's legendary crystal cities glittered like constellations against the emerald landscape. Nervous, Captain? Dr. Eliza Wong asked, reviewing cultural protocols on her tablet. Terrified, Chen admitted with a half-smile. Humanity's first formal introduction to the oldest empire in charted space, and they send a career military officer with 6 months of diplomatic training. You're selling yourself short, Wong replied. The Kelveri respect hierarchy and decisiveness. A scientific delegation would be dismissed as subordinate specialists. Chen nodded, studying the briefing one final time. Humanity's position was precarious, too advanced to ignore, too undeveloped to respect. Earth needed trading rights in Kelveri space, protection from the more aggressive Valkyrie ships, and technological exchange agreements. What Earth didn't need was a diplomatic incident caused by offending aliens who considered humans barely more evolved than their domesticated pets. Approaching Royal Docking Bay, the pilot announced. Palace security requests occupant verification. Chen straightened his posture, adopting the commanding presence that had earned him this mission. Captain James Chen, representing the United Earth government, he declared, unaware that his arrival coincided with a royal succession crisis that would forever alter the course of 2 civilizations. The grand reception hall of the Kelveri Palace thronged with dignitaries from across the known galaxy. Holographic constellations drifted across the vaulted ceiling, accurately mapping the Empire's extensive territories. Crystalline servers floated between clusters of guests, offering rare delicacies that changed color according to each species' dietary preferences. Captain Chen maintained perfect diplomatic posture as the Royal Minister of External Affairs droned through introductions. The Kelveri official spoke Earth Standard with clinical precision, but made no effort to hide his condescension. The human delegation may observe from the tertiary viewing platform, the minister concluded, gesturing toward a distant balcony clearly designed for lesser species. The king will acknowledge your presence during the formal announcements. Chen bowed with exactly 15 degrees of inclination, the protocol for respected equals, not the 30-degree bow suggested in his briefing for emergent species. We appreciate the Kelveri Empire's hospitality, he replied smoothly, noting the subtle widening of the minister's eyes, surprise, perhaps, at his perfect pronunciation of the Kelveri formal address. As the minister moved away, Dr. Wang whispered, "Bold move, Captain." "Calculated risk," Chen murmured back. "We establish our position now or spend decades being treated as glorified pets." From their assigned position, they watched the elaborate dance of galactic politics. The Valkyrie contingent, immediately recognizable by their crimson battle armor, commanded immediate attention. The Mithrans, slender and luminescent, drew admiring glances as they demonstrated miniature versions of their famed technological wonders. "The princess has not yet appeared," Wang noted, consulting her data tablet discreetly. Chen nodded, surveying the room with practiced ease. His military training had included extensive study of power dynamics in unfamiliar environments. Here, beneath the pageantry, he sensed tension, factions forming, alliances shifting. Something significant was brewing in the imperial court. "I need some air," he decided suddenly, spotting a small archway leading to what appeared to be exterior gardens. "Continue observations. I'll return shortly." The garden path wound through impossibly perfect arrangements of flora from across the empire. Chen breathed deeply, appreciating the momentary solitude. Earth's hasty push into galactic politics had left little time for reflection. Rounding a crystalline fountain, he stopped abruptly. A figure stood at the garden's edge, silhouetted against the setting primary sun, unmistakably Kelveri, but smaller than most he'd encountered. Female, he guessed, noting the distinctive patterning visible even in the fading light. She turned at his approach, and Chen immediately recognized the subtle markings of royalty from his briefings. He prepared to retreat with appropriate apologies, but her gesture stopped him. "You're far from the reception," she observed in perfect Earth standard, her voice carrying melodic undertones impossible for human vocal cords. "As are you," Chen replied, maintaining diplomatic neutrality while assessing the situation. "Royal family, certainly, but which member? Perhaps we both seek a moment's peace from the performance in there." She gestured toward the palace. "All those species pretending they don't despise each other, all advancing their own interests under the guise of cooperation." Chen found himself smiling. "You've just described diplomacy across the universe. And you don't seem bothered by this observation," she noted, her head tilting with curiosity. "Recognizing reality doesn't mean accepting it as unchangeable," he offered. "Even enemies can find common ground when self-interest aligns properly." "Pragmatic," she commented, moving closer. "Your species is new to interstellar politics, yet you speak with unexpected clarity. Humans have compressed millennia of conflict and cooperation into a few centuries," Chen explained. "We've learned some lessons quickly, out of necessity." Their conversation flowed with surprising ease. No titles, no posturing, just ideas exchanged freely. The princess found herself fascinated by this alien's perspective, so different from the calculated platitudes of court. The moment shattered as royal guards appeared at the garden entrance, their ceremonial weapons humming with potential energy. "Your Highness," their leader called out sharply, "the king requires your presence immediately." Chen's expression remained carefully neutral as realization dawned. Not just any royal, the princess herself. Zara's secondary eyelids flickered in what might have been amusement. "It seems our moment of honesty has ended," Captain. Chen, he supplied, bowing now with precise, respectful form. Captain James Chen. Until our next cultural exchange, Captain, Princess Zara replied formally, falling back into royal persona as her guards approached. But the look she gave him before departing carried something neither had anticipated: genuine interest. Cultural exchange sessions with the human delegation. King Theron's crest flattened against his skull, a sign of deep skepticism. Explain your reasoning, daughter. Princess Zara maintained perfect composure, hands folded precisely in the formal court position. The ancestral texts command us to understand all species within our influence. Humans have expanded rapidly. Their adaptability could provide valuable insights. The Royal Advisory Council exchanged glances across the crescent-shaped table. Their concerns remained unspoken but evident. The princess was delaying her marriage selection with trivial distractions. Very well, the king conceded reluctantly. 3 sessions, properly monitored. No more. Your primary focus remains the selection ceremony. Once alone, Zora contacted her most trusted attendant. Arranged the first meeting in the historical archives. Minimal security presence. Captain Chen reviewed the unexpected invitation with cautious optimism. A royal request for cultural exchange, unprecedented for a species at our diplomatic tier. Dr. Wong scanned the biometric security parameters accompanying the transmission. They're serious. These are executive-level security clearances. The princess seemed. Chen paused, searching for an appropriate descriptor, intellectually curious during our brief encounter. Just maintain protocol, Wong cautioned. Remember the Vraxian incident. One diplomat's casual remarks at first contact back 17 years. Chen nodded, though privately he suspected this invitation had little to do with standard diplomacy. The historical archives soared 30 meters overhead, ancient knowledge systems pulsing with soft light. Holographic representations of extinct species flickered between shelves containing actual physical texts, a rarity in modern galactic civilization. Princess Zora dismissed her attendants to the archive entrance, leaving only 2 guards at a respectful distance as Captain Chen arrived precisely on schedule. Captain, she acknowledged, her formal tone belied by the subtle pattern shifts across her skin that Chen had studied extensively in his cultural briefings. Anticipation, perhaps even excitement. Your Highness, he replied with the appropriate bow. I appreciate this opportunity for exchange between our peoples. We can dispense with formalities here, she said, leading him deeper into the archives. I've disabled most surveillance. We can speak freely. Chen raised an eyebrow, but followed. That suggests this is not an official cultural exchange. It is exactly that, Zora countered, activating a private viewing chamber, but without the filters of court protocol. Over the next 3 hours, they shared uncensored histories of their respective worlds. Zara described the Kelveri's evolution from aquatic origins to galactic dominance, the 1,000-year crystalline wars that nearly destroyed their civilization, and the rigid traditions established to prevent such conflicts. In turn, Chen offered humanity's tumultuous history, tribal conflicts, world wars, environmental disasters, and the remarkable resilience that had pushed them beyond each catastrophe. Your species fights itself constantly, Zara observed, yet somehow emerges stronger. We call it creative destruction, Chen explained. Painful but effective. The Kelveri approach values stability above all else, correct? To our detriment, she admitted, surprising Chen with her candor. Our empire hasn't produced a significant innovation in 3 centuries. We perfect existing technologies, but create nothing new. Their conversation flowed from politics to philosophy, art to science. The princess found herself speaking thoughts she'd never voiced to her own advisors, her vision for a more adaptable Kelveri society, her frustration with ancient traditions that had outlived their purpose. Chen listened with genuine interest, offering human perspectives without presumption. Where court nobles sought to flatter her, Chen challenged her thinking. Where Kelveri scientists dismissed her theories, Chen explored their potential. As their appointed time ended, Zara found herself reluctant to conclude. "We have scheduled 2 more sessions," she said formally for the benefit of approaching guards. "I look forward to continuing our cultural exchange, Your Highness," Chen replied, his diplomatic expression perfectly appropriate, betraying nothing of the connection forming between them. Neither noticed the royal spy drone hovering near the archive ceiling, transmitting every word directly to King Theron's private chambers. The alignment of the 7 moons drew closer. Palace astronomers tracked the celestial convergence that occurred just once every 87 years, a phenomenon that had traditionally marked major transitions in Kelveri leadership. 5 days remained until Princess Zora must announce her choice. In her private chambers, Zora reviewed holographic profiles of her official suitors for the 100th time. Prince Doran of the Valkyrie. Militaristic, strategically valuable, intellectually limited. Lord Xivan. The most powerful Kelveri noble, whose wealth could fund imperial expansion for centuries. Ambassador Trell of the Mithrans, brilliant scientist whose knowledge could advance Kelveri technology beyond current stagnation. Politically sensible choices, all of them. Exactly what the Empire needed, according to generations of tradition. A soft tone indicated an incoming secure communication. Final cultural exchange session canceled by royal decree, her attendant announced through the communication field. King Theron requests your immediate presence in the ancestral chamber. Zara's outer membrane pulsed with irritation, but she composed herself before leaving her chambers. The ancestral chamber was reserved for the most serious royal discussions, those witnessed by the genetic memory crystals of past monarchs. "Your interactions with the human have become inappropriate," King Theron declared without preamble. Behind him, the memory crystals of 17 generations of Kelveri rulers glowed with soft blue light. "Our discussions have been illuminating," Zara replied carefully. "Captain Chen offers perspectives that undermine 10,000 years of Kelveri governance," her father interrupted. The high spiritual advisor stepped forward from the shadows, carrying an ancient divination apparatus. "We have consulted the ancestral wisdom," the advisor intoned, his ceremonial robes shimmering with embedded data crystals. "The patterns are disturbing. Deviation from tradition at this critical juncture threatens catastrophic outcomes." Projected above the apparatus, probability streams branched into countless futures. Those highlighted in royal purple, the paths of traditional choices, showed stability and continued power. Those in warning red, representing divergence, depicted fracturing alliances and decline. "The human will depart immediately after the selection ceremony," King Theron announced. "I've accelerated diplomatic processing of their trade requests to eliminate any reason for continued presence." Zara recognized the political maneuver, her father offering generous terms to remove the distraction. "You fear my choice," she observed quietly. The king's secondary eyelids snapped shut, a sign of extreme displeasure rarely displayed in formal settings. "I fear your recklessness. The royal bloodline carries responsibility beyond personal preference." Across the palace complex, Captain Chen packed his diplomatic materials. The sudden approval of all Earth's requests, with terms more favorable than they had dared hope for, carried obvious implications. "They want us gone," Dr. Wong stated flatly, reviewing the transmission. "Something has changed." Chen nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "Our mission is accomplished. We should prepare for departure after the ceremony." The selection ceremony. Wong raised an eyebrow. "Our invitation was ceremonial. No one expects humans to actually attend. Nevertheless, diplomatic protocol demands our presence," Chen replied, his tone brooking no argument. Later, alone in his quarters, Chen reviewed the extensive notes from his conversations with Princess Zora. Her vision for the Empire was revolutionary, adaptive rather than static, collaborative rather than hierarchical. In another reality, perhaps, he dismissed the thought firmly. Whatever connection had formed between them was irrelevant to his mission. Earth needed this alliance, and the princess needed a politically advantageous marriage. The cosmic machinery of galactic politics cared nothing for personal feelings. In her meditation chamber, Princess Zora reviewed the ancient laws of succession. For 17 generations, tradition had guided every royal decision. The weight of history pressed down like a gravitational anomaly. But as the 7 moons inched toward alignment in the night sky, Zora's decision crystallized. Perhaps the empire needed something beyond tradition to survive the coming centuries. Perhaps what appeared as deviation might actually be evolution. The risk was enormous, the consequences potentially catastrophic. But deep in the genetic memory banks of the ancestral chamber, one small data point had caught her attention, a divergent path marked not in warning red, but in a color the prediction system couldn't categorize. A path leading somewhere entirely new. The Grand Selection Hall blazed with ceremonial illumination, light refracting through the ancient crystal dome to cast 7 huge shadows across the assembled dignitaries. Representatives from 23 spacefaring civilizations stood in carefully arranged hierarchies, with the most powerful nearest the ancestral throne. King Theron wore the crown of convergence, a neural interface connecting him directly to the genetic memories of his predecessors. His royal robes, embedded with living crystalline organisms, shifted patterns to reflect the solemnity of the occasion. For 17 millennia, he began, his voice amplified by the hall's perfect acoustics. The royal bloodline has guided our empire through the stars. Today, as the 7 moons align, Princess Zora will honor tradition by selecting her consort and securing our lineage for generations to come. Captain Chen stood with the Earth delegation at the hall's periphery, precisely where protocol dictated representatives of developing species should be positioned. Dr. Wang studied the proceedings with academic interest, while Chen maintained diplomatic composure despite the hollow sensation in his chest. Princess Zora entered from the preparation chamber, her ceremonial attire catching and amplifying light in ways that made several species' visual receptors adjust rapidly. The traditional selection crown adorned her head, its neural filaments connecting to her central nervous system to record her choice for the imperial archives. She approached the ancestral throne and performed the ritual gestures of submission to tradition. The assembled diplomats murmured appreciatively. Whatever her reputation for progressive thinking, the princess clearly respected the ancient forms. The 3 final candidates will approach, intoned the royal ceremonial director. Lord Sivan of House Eternal stepped forward first, his imposing physique enhanced by armor that incorporated fragments of his ancestors' exoskeletons. Prince Doran of the Valkyrie followed, crimson battle decorations glinting menacingly. Ambassador Trell of the Mithrans glided forward last, his translucent body pulsing with barely contained technological enhancements. Each presented their formal offerings: territory, military power, technological secrets, while the princess acknowledged them with perfect ceremonial precision. King Theron's expression reflected satisfaction. Despite his daughter's recent behavior, the ceremony proceeded exactly as tradition demanded. The future of the empire was secure. As the 7 moons align, Princess Zora began the traditional declaration, her voice clear and unwavering. I make my selection in accordance with the needs of our great empire. The air in the chamber seemed to still, particles suspended in anticipation. I choose. She paused, her secondary eyelids flickering momentarily. Captain James Chen of Earth. Silence crashed through the hall like a physical force. The Kelveri nobles froze in postures of shock that transcended cultural barriers. The Valkyrie delegation's battle auras flared dangerously. The Mithran scientists began rapid calculations, their transparent bodies pulsing with accelerated thought processes. King Theron rose from the ancestral throne, his royal crest fully extended in unmistakable fury. This is not among the approved selections, he stated, each word precisely controlled. The ancient laws specify that the heir may choose any being capable of contributing to imperial advancement. Zara replied, equally controlled. There are no species restrictions in the original texts. The human delegation stood paralyzed. Dr. Wang's grip on Chen's arm tightened painfully as diplomatic protocol shattered around them. "Captain Chen," Princess Zora continued, turning toward the human delegation, "will you accept this selection?" Chen stood at the axis point of interstellar politics, aware that his next words could alter humanity's position in the galaxy forever. His diplomatic training offered no guidance for this unprecedented situation. The eyes of 1,000 alien species fixed upon the human representative as futures branched in countless directions, waiting on his response. "I accept," Captain Chen responded after a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity. His voice, calm and measured, echoed through the stunned silence of the Grand Selection Hall. The chamber erupted. Diplomatic translators struggled to keep pace with the cacophony of outraged exclamations in 24 languages. The Valkyrie delegation activated combat postures, prompting Kelveri royal guards to form a protective barrier around the throne. King Theron's voice cut through the chaos with imperial authority. "The proceedings will adjourn while the Council of Elders evaluates this unprecedented situation." As attendants ushered dignitaries toward separate chambers, Lord Xivan stepped forward, his ancestral armor pulsing with barely contained energy. "I invoke the right of challenge," he declared, his voice resonating with the specific harmonic frequencies used for ancient legal declarations. "By the blood code of the First Empire, I contest this selection." The chamber fell silent once more. Even King Theron seemed momentarily lost for words. The royal archivist, an ancient Kelveri whose translucent skin revealed the slow circulation of age-darkened fluids, hobbled forward. "The right of challenge has not been invoked in 7 generations," she stated, "but remains valid under imperial law." "What is this challenge?" Chen asked quietly, directing his question to Dr. Wang. "I don't know," she whispered back. "It's not in our briefing materials." Princess Zara stepped forward, her royal attire shifting to reflect her changing emotional state. "The right of challenge demands trial by combat between the challenger and the selected consort," she explained, her voice steady despite the visible distress patterns rippling across her skin. "Victory determines worthiness for royal union." "Combat," Chen echoed, diplomatic training failing to mask his surprise. Lord Xivan turned toward the human, his height and enhanced exoskeleton making the physical disparity between them painfully obvious. "Yes, human. Combat according to the ancient codes. No technology beyond the ancestral implements." His upper limbs extended to their full intimidating length. "Unless you wish to withdraw your acceptance." Chen understood the trap immediately. Refusing would humiliate Earth in front of the assembled galactic powers. Accepting meant facing a genetically engineered warrior species in physical combat. "Captain," Dr. Wang hissed urgently, "human diplomatic status prohibits engagement in alien ritual combat." Interstellar Code of Conduct, Section 17. Before Chen could respond, King Theron spoke. "The challenge will proceed in accordance with tradition." His secondary eyelids flickered in what human xenopsychologists had identified as the Kelveri equivalent of grim satisfaction. "The trial will commence in 3 cycles of our primary star." 3 days, Dr. Wang translated unnecessarily. "I request access to information regarding the traditional combat protocols," Chen stated formally, falling back on diplomatic procedure in the absence of better options. "Granted," the king replied with the barest minimum of courtesy. "The human may also select one cultural advisor during preparation." Princess Zara stepped forward. "As the selecting royal, I claim the right to serve as cultural advisor." "Denied," King Theron countered immediately. "You will remain in isolation during the pre-trial period, as tradition demands. Then I appoint Leary, royal historian, as advisor to Captain Chen," Zara declared before her father could object further. As royal guards escorted Chen toward preparation chambers, he caught a final glimpse of Princess Zora. Her outer membrane pulsed with a pattern he couldn't interpret, but her eyes, surprisingly similar to human eyes despite their cobalt coloration, conveyed a message requiring no translation. Determination mingled with apology. The human delegation huddled in urgent conference as the hall emptied. Earth's first major diplomatic mission had somehow transformed into trial by combat, with the fate of interspecies relations hanging in the balance. 3 days, Chen murmured to himself. 3 days to learn how to defeat an opponent who has evolved specifically for combat, with a genetic memory spanning 10,000 years of warfare. The odds were, quite literally, astronomically against him. The combat arena dated from the First Empire, its hexagonal design carved from a single massive crystal excavated from Kelveri Prime's core. Spectator tiers rose in concentric rings, filled to capacity with nobles, diplomats, and visiting dignitaries. Captain Chen stood in the preparation chamber, examining the unfamiliar weapons arrayed before him. Leary, the royal historian appointed by Princess Zora, had spent the past 3 days tutoring him in Kelveri combat traditions. Remember, the elderly Kelveri instructed, her translucent skin showing the sluggish circulation of advanced age. Lord Xivan will expect you to select traditional implements. His training encompasses all 17 ancestral forms. Chen nodded, touching none of the gleaming weapons, and the combat continues until submission or incapacitation, correct? Yes, though no challenger has survived against a noble-born Kelveri in recorded history, Larry replied with clinical detachment. The physical disparities are significant. Chen had studied the differences extensively. Kelveri possessed twice the muscle density of humans, exoskeletons capable of deflecting projectiles, and reflexes evolved for predatory efficiency. Lord Xivan, additionally, came from a bloodline selectively bred for combat prowess. The princess instructed me to share everything possible within legal boundaries, Larry added quietly, her voice dropping to a barely audible frequency. Lord Xivan favors his dominant right limbs. The ancestral armor he wears contains neural linkages that, if disrupted, cause temporary sensory confusion. Chen filed this information away, recognizing it for what it was: Princess Zora's attempt to give him any possible advantage, however slight. A harmonic tone signaled the approaching ceremony. Chen straightened his shoulders, wearing only the simple garment provided for human combatants, a concession to physiological differences. Captain, Larry said formally, it has been educational to witness human adaptation strategies. The neutral words barely masked what Chen recognized as genuine respect, the first he'd encountered from any Kelveri besides the princess. The arena fell silent as Chen entered from the western portal. The gathered Kelveri, accustomed to the pageantry of ceremonial combat, watched with scientific curiosity as the human walked empty-handed toward the center dais. From the eastern portal, Lord Xivan emerged to thunderous approval. His ancestral armor, augmented with battle trophies from 3 generations of his lineage, amplified his already imposing physique. He carried the traditional Kelveri battle staff, its crystalline edge capable of slicing through most known materials. The human brings no weapons, the arena herald announced, surprise evident even through the formal intonation. King Theron leaned forward on his observation throne. As is his right, he acknowledged reluctantly. The codes permit unarmed combat if chosen by either participant. Lord Xivan's secondary eyelids flickered with predatory anticipation. The human's choice could only be interpreted as acceptance of inevitable defeat. The combatants stood facing each other on the central platform as the herald recited the ancient combat rites. Chen's expression remained composed, his breathing steady despite the unbreathable portions of Kelveri atmosphere swirling visibly around the arena. "Begin," commanded the herald, striking the ceremonial resonance plate. Lord Xivan launched forward with practiced precision, battle staff arcing toward Chen with lethal efficiency. The human sidestepped with unexpected agility, using movement patterns entirely foreign to Kelveri combat traditions. The audience murmured as Chen continuously evaded without attempting to engage. Lord Xivan's attacks grew more aggressive, ancestral armor humming with power as he activated its enhanced capabilities. The human shows cowardice. One noble commented loudly. "No, countered another observer, observation. He studies his opponent's patterns. When Chen finally moved to engage, his approach defied all Kelveri combat logic. Rather than meeting strength with strength, he targeted transition points in Xiven's attack sequences, using the Kelveri's own momentum to disrupt his balance. For nearly 20 minutes, far longer than anyone had anticipated, the human employed a bewildering array of techniques drawn from dozens of Earth's combat traditions. Wherever Xiven expected resistance, he found yielding. When he prepared for evasion, he encountered unexpected counterforce. The crowd's disdain gradually transformed into reluctant appreciation for the tactical creativity on display. Even King Theron leaned forward with greater interest as the impossible match continued. But physical realities couldn't be denied forever. A sweeping strike finally connected, sending Chen sprawling across the crystal platform. Blood, startlingly red against the translucent surface, marked where the edge had penetrated his defenses. Lord Xiven moved in for the finishing blow, confident in his inevitable victory. In the fraction of a second before Lord Xiven's finishing strike connected, Captain Chen executed a desperate maneuver, rather than attempting to evade. Impossible given his injured state, he lunged forward, directly toward his opponent. His hands moved with surgical precision toward the neural linkage points of the ancestral armor that Larry had identified during their preparation. The unexpected movement disrupted Xiven's attack trajectory. His battle staff missed its target by millimeters as Chen's fingers found the concealed connection ports where the armor interfaced with Kelveri nervous systems. A sharp twist, applying pressure in exactly the pattern Larry had described, and the ancient technology responded. Cascading disruption spread through the neural network of the armor. Lord Xiven froze mid-motion, his sensory systems suddenly flooded with contradictory input. The arena fell silent as Chen staggered back, bloody but upright, while the Kelveri warrior stood paralyzed by his own ancestral technology. "Yield," Chen gasped, his voice carrying in the perfect acoustics. "Your armor is locked in neural feedback. In 30 seconds, the overload will reach your central nervous system." Lord Xiven struggled visibly, his exoskeleton vibrating with effort. "Impossible," he snarled. "No outsider could know." "I didn't defeat your strength," Chen interrupted. "I understood your technology. The weakness isn't in your body, but in your traditions. Unchanging, predictable, vulnerable to adaptation." The combat herald approached cautiously. Lord Xiven must verbally yield or face the consequences of the neural cascade. For 3 agonizing seconds, pride warred with survival instinct on the Kelveri noble's face. Then, "I yield," he declared, the words clearly causing more pain than any physical wound could have inflicted. 1 standard year later, Princess Zora, now bearing the additional title of Chief Reformer, stood beside Captain Chen on the newly constructed interspecies cooperation platform orbiting Kelveri Prime. Below them, the crystalline cities glittered as they had for millennia, but with subtle differences visible only to those who knew where to look. "The Mithran Technology Exchange begins next cycle," Zara noted, examining holographic reports. "Their scientists have already expressed interest in the human adaptive research methods." "And the Valkyrie?" Chen asked, touching the regenerated tissue on his shoulder. "A permanent reminder of the combat arena." "Cautiously optimistic about the Joint Defense Initiative," she replied. Their battle prefect actually used the phrase "surprisingly effective" regarding the human tactical simulations. King Theron had grudgingly accepted the outcome of the challenge, bound by traditions too sacred to violate. What he hadn't anticipated was how quickly the human Kelveri alliance would demonstrate its value. When fringe raiders attacked the outer colonies 3 months after the selection ceremony, human adaptive response protocols had saved thousands of Kelveri lives. When trade disputes with the hegemony threatened economic stability, Earth's experience with competing economic systems had provided unexpected solutions. Most significantly, the integration of human creativity with Kelveri stability had produced technological and cultural innovations that neither species could have developed independently. Your father requested a private audience tomorrow, Chen mentioned, his formal diplomatic tone softening when they were alone. Zura's skin rippled with amusement patterns. No longer to debate my choice, I believe, but to discuss implementing human educational methodologies in the Royal Academy. From another observation deck, Earth's new ambassador watched the royal couple with satisfaction. The diplomatic incident that had nearly ended her career, Dr. Wong still shuddered remembering the emergency communications with Earth government after the selection ceremony, had instead opened unprecedented opportunities for humanity in the galactic community. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive now sought their perspectives. Technologies previously restricted from Earth now flowed freely through cooperative exchange programs. The careful balance of galactic politics had shifted, not through domination, but through unexpected complementarity. As Kelvary Prime's 3 suns set simultaneously, a rare celestial event considered highly fortuitous in Kelvary tradition, Princess Zora and Captain Chen turned their attention to the stars beyond their joined systems. The challenges ahead remained formidable: entrenched prejudices, competing interests, ancient conflicts. But for the first time in centuries, the future held something more valuable than certainty. It held possibility.